how KK Music Festival works, right? It is a competition, right? But I don't. The way I see it, it wasn't like a really prestigious kind of thing.
What is up, guys? This is Raymond Drums back with another Drummer Talk video. As you guys already know, I've started this brand new series where I get a chance to talk to various musicians across all over Malaysia, and especially drummers, because I myself is a drummer and I would like to start this off by going with drummers first, and then later on we'll see where it goes to. So the point of all this is to show you guys that in Malaysia we not only just have musicians who are not really just surviving, but they're actually thriving in the music business industry. And so today, I actually have a very special guest with me who is also a dear friend of mine, also coming from the state of Sabah, which I am in. And he is a drummer who has performed with many different bands and done many different gigs, concerts, both big and small, as well as having his own jazz band called Kangkung Belacan. So it is my honor and also my joy to introduce you guys to none other than Mr. Adriel Wong. Hi Adriel, how are you doing?
Hello, hi Raymond. Thanks for having me here. As Raymond briefly mentioned earlier on, I'm a drummer, and I currently live and work around Kuala Lumpur City. But from time to time, I would travel with my band and do gigs around Malaysia or even sometimes in Singapore. So and most of the time, I'm either doing a gig or teaching drums. So yeah, that's who I am.
Alright, nice. So perhaps we can go back into the past, like when did you actually started drumming?
So I think I started around the age of 6 or 7, somewhere around there, and it was in the church actually. So I started learning the drums and playing in church, and then my mom also sent me for drum lessons. That time I think I went to this place called Ram in Damai that was owned by Roger Wong.
Yeah, I know that place. So yeah, Roger Wong is, for those of you guys who don't know, Roger Wong is one of the legendary guitarists who resides currently in Sabah, and yeah, he's known to be one of the most profound, I would say, classical guitarists. Would you say that?
He does some pop stuff as well. So like, I think he's just a very good guitarist. Period.
Yeah, that's right. At what point did you actually decided or you wanted to do drumming professionally?
I never really thought that I would be a drummer until much later. Like to put it relatively, like only very recently. So while I was in high school, I didn't think I would be like a full-time drummer or anything like that. Don't really think I wanted to be a teacher also. I just know that I like performing. I mean, like playing music with my friends in church and all that. Then even when deciding what to study for a degree, a music degree wasn't exactly what I had in mind. So like I thought I was gonna go, do an engineering degree or something like that. But as fate would have it, I ended up pursuing a music degree in Penang, and then from there, kind of like meet people, get to talk to people, and then somehow or other I found myself playing a lot of jazz, and so now that's why I'm in KL and performing. Pretty much a full-time musician now. Yeah, so it was not like a thing that I always wanted to do ever since I was young. Like I didn't think of it as a career sort of thing. It was more like a hobby. Even now also, I guess you could say it's a career, but it's like a very fun one. So
oh, that's nice to hear, man. Yeah, a lot of people actually wanted to get into the music career, but then they're always having, struggles and find it very difficult to get into it. Whereas I think for you, it's like the complete opposite. You weren't even thinking of going into it, and somehow you just landed into the music industry, is it?
Yeah, something like that. Of course, there was a lot of hard work. Once I realized that, okay, I want to get serious and really do this properly. Then I think it was when I was doing my degree. So like it was a music degree, and I sort of knew like, okay, I'm gonna, most likely become a teacher or something like that. But I really wanted to perform more than teach at that time. So I thought like, okay, if I want to get gigs and I want to perform more, then I better get my playing stuff together. So like I would practice even harder and stuff like that. But yeah, it kind of went on from there. Yeah, when I was in university.
All right. So when you were playing and learning and constantly practicing, right? Who were some of your inspirations? Who are your drumming inspirations, I should ask?
So at that time, I wasn't really like into drummers. I was more into just the music per se. So I was listening to a lot of artists that were very percussive in their compositions and music. So like I was very into musicians like Tigran Hamashan, who is this like a quote unquote jazz pianist, but he plays rather heavy, he composed rather heavy compositions, and it's very percussive and a lot of odd time signatures, syncopation, stuff like that. And then, but to be honest, I'm like not really good with names. I couldn't at that time. I didn't really bother also because I knew I wasn't good with names. So I was like, even if I go and learn who the drummer was, I'd probably forget the name or something like that. But but luckily I still did some research that I found like, oh, okay, he worked with like Mark Juliana, and then Nate Wood, and then Gilad. No, sorry. See, bad with names. So there's one more. I think it's a Swedish guy. That tip of my tongue can't remember his name now. But but it was through there. Then I got exposed to these other drummers and then checked out their stuff as well. Yeah, and then there's another Israeli bassist called Avishai Cohen, and his music also very percussive. He does this thing where he plays and also slaps because he plays double bass. So he can slap it and it almost like a cajon kind of thing while playing. And then very weird technique, but very percussive. So like their approach to the instrument and their compositions, like very percussive. So I enjoyed listening to a lot of that kind of stuff and trying to learn it, stuff like that. So in terms of drummers, there weren't many. I didn't really follow the drummer first. I followed the music first. I like listened to music and I thought like, oh, this is really cool music. Then only who played drums, Yeah, it sort of went that route.
Interesting. Yeah, then you're one of the rare ones, I would say, because usually for drummers, we always like, oh, who's the drummer first, and then we go look at the rest of the musicians somehow. But yeah, you're going the other way around. So in that case, right, besides being a drummer, do you play any other musical instruments?
Well, my mom's a piano teacher, so ever since I was young, like I had to learn the piano, no choice. Yeah. So and then in church as well, sometimes when there were no basses, then I would play bass. So I just play a little bit of that, but yeah, mainly the drums and piano, and also some percussion instruments. Yeah.
Percussion instruments, meaning like snare, like the glockenspiel, xylophone type of thing? Is it?
Yeah. So auxiliary percussions, like the untuned ones, and also tuned ones like marimba, xylophone, timpani. Like there was a brief period of my life where I put a lot of time and effort into that, but I kind of like stopped because it was just really hard to have access to those instruments, especially when I was studying in Penang and. In Sabah, you don't really get access to these instruments as well. It's very hard to keep it consistent and practice.
Yeah, that is true, because it's very rare that I could find anybody who can actually play tuned percussion. I mean, other than pianists who just know how to work with the marimba or xylophone as and treat it like a piano and just hit like one note at a time. But there's no like people who have done with the technique where they hold two sticks.
Yeah, the ballads. Yeah. So yeah, that was like for about 4 years lah. I because I was part of the MPYO, so there I was in and out of it probably for about 8 years or so. So whenever I attended it, I would like have short classes with Matt Prendergrass, who was the principal percussionist. So then he showed me like the technique and stuff, and then occasionally I would have lessons with alumni of MPYO who is known as Su Yin Tan, and then Tan Su Yin, and I had some lessons with her, and then she polish up my technique and stuff like that. But I never really like went super far into that realm because it's like a whole new instrument. You have the drum set, you have the piano. Like a marimba, you can take it as far as you would a drum set. So it's like a lot of things, and then not having access to instrument is one thing, but then the time also, because I was like trying to juggle that between like practicing the drums and practicing marimba stuff. And I was like, there's not enough hours in a day. Yeah, so I had to pick one. It sort of come down to that kind of situation. I had to like pick one I really wanted to be good at, and then just like focus all my time and energy getting good at that one thing.
Yeah,
definitely. At least that's how I saw it lah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. So MPYO, that's the Malaysian Philharmonic Youth Orchestra. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, that's correct.
No, I didn't know that you were part of it, and you were doing it for 8 years. Could you tell, maybe share a little bit about your experience, being in that whole realm? Because that's like the classical stuff, right?
What I could say is it really helped, like with my technique, especially because having good technique is kind of like one of the main things you gotta have, when you're playing, especially with the orchestra, and then also counting rest. It's very stressful because sometimes you get pieces where you have to count for like 400 bars, and then you're only playing like the last bar, and you don't want to miss. No, those are actually still okay because the end is coming. The ones that are really tough are the ones where you have one note in the middle of the entire piece, and then you're like, where is this supposed to be? Especially if you don't do your homework. So I fell into that trap of not doing my homework before attending rehearsals sometimes, because also how it works is that like your name will be in the system, but sometimes they don't always need like 8 percussionists. Sometimes they only need 2, so they will call just 2 people to come. But if they need more, then they'll call you. So then sometimes I'll get the call like 2 weeks prior or something like that, and then show up. But then because I don't have the instruments to practice, I didn't really bother, which was a very bad habit lah. But then I just show up and thought like, oh, can sight read ma? They're like, oh, okay. But like, no, it's really hard. Sometimes you really need to know the parts. Even though you can sight read it, it's like the phrasing and just knowing where and how intense you should play it and stuff like that. Yeah, so you should always do your homework. So, but yeah, and a lot of technique. So like, even when it comes down to simple things like single strokes and double strokes, it's very stressful having to play in front of like the principal of the percussion section. It's such a simple thing like play single strokes, 16 notes at 80 BPM, You think like, oh, that's easy, that's not fast, it's slow, take your time. And then he'll point out stuff like, oh, your stick is not like vertical, it's like kind of sideways, or like you're using too much wrist, or your grip is too tight, mini stuff like that. And it really, they're very particular in that sense. I mean, that's how my experience went now. Because even like in the piece itself, when you have like stuff like that, triplets, sometimes they want like a mini crescendo, like they phrase those mini things. So they really dive in and like pinpoint what you should do for each single note. So something like 8 bars looks very easy at first, but when you actually have to perform it with the orchestra or an ensemble, like it's like, whoa, you can spend hours just practicing 8 bars, Yeah, so that was like an interesting experience because prior to that, I never had to like practice that hard just for like excerpts of different pieces and stuff.
That sounds really stressful, even though it's supposed to be something easy. Okay, so would you say that during your years, with your MPYO, did it help to improve your ability of playing as a musician and also as a person who can be a master sight reader?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, because of course, the sight reading was like mostly during the initial stages, right? When you're first learning the pieces. Then when you master it, then it's more about ear training. Like you learn to listen to others. Because in the orchestra, you have like 80 or 100 people, different instruments, and the position where you are standing or sitting, and then you have to listen out, and also looking at the conductor, and different conductors have like different way of waving their batons and all that. So you gotta like have really good ears. So like in that example where you have 400 bars before you play a note, you can actually sort of cheat and don't count and just wait for a particular phrase to happen or melody, and then you're like, oh, okay, that's the melody, that means that I have 20 bars left before I hit my note, something like that. So it's like really good ear training as well. And the discipline lah, because everyone there like really practice like crazy. They like, if the 2T session would start at 8, some of them will like have breakfast at 5:30 or 6, and then go like an hour early just to warm up. I was like, whoa, never
Wow.
seen this kind of thing before.
Wow, that sounds like everybody is really busy hustling. So that actually lead me to some questions with regards to being a percussionist in a big huge ensemble like an orchestra. Because normally for drummers, right, we are the ones who is holding the band together in terms of the timing. Everybody's tight. We follow a click track. So for classical music, there isn't really any click track, right? You're following the conductor. So sometimes I've seen how it works, but I still don't quite understand. So maybe you could elaborate, like when the conductor does something like this, right? When the hand comes down, I as the drummer would see that the pinky comes down, then I will hit the note, like bum. But sometimes when I see what happens is that the conductor does this, then the music starts, then it only responds afterwards. That's where I'm like going, whoa, this is so I don't understand what's going on now. I'm like, is the conductor giving the timing, the tempo, but yet the music is not following? What's going on? So, like, how does it work? Like, how can you, as a drummer who, for me personally, have been so drilled into thinking, yes, that's it, exactly, right at that point. But no, it's afterwards like a response. How do you actually like work with that?
I think you sort of like have the initial steps already. If I notice that he does that where it's like he hits down and then there's a split second, but also I think you have to sort of understand like the nature of certain instruments. Like for a xylophone, the moment you contact the instrument, you get a sound. Whereas like a violin, there's that really small second where they have to get that friction going before the sound really comes out, sort of thing. So like and then also for aerophones, right, the wind instruments, like you have to get the air flowing first, and also the nature of the piece itself, right? Some pieces are more legato-y, more free, a lot of rubato and stuff, and some are more like straight and really some even push. Some like they want that sort of like at the edge of your seat feeling. So it also depends on the conductor's interpretation of the piece. So I think one safe way is to just ask the conductor. But also, I learned this also, that you can't really always rely on your ears, because sometimes due to the nature of the hall, right, if you hear like the bassist playing something and you're like across the room, you might be too late already. So you can't always trust your ears, and the safest thing is to just look at the conductor's hands. But whether to come on the dot or before, usually it's after a few bars, you kind of know his flow. You can sort of feel the pulse, and then you just go off that. But I think if you're really not sure, you can just talk to the conductor and ask, like, what does it mean? Because that's what I ended up doing most of the time. Yeah, I was also like, because sometimes they like curve it, and then like, which part of the curve is the one, Yeah, so then I'll talk to them, and then he'll explain like, oh yeah, it's sort of like this, and then I probably still don't understand, but yeah. But then by that time, you rehearse the song so many times, it's kind of like you memorize already the sounds, and then you just play accordingly. Yeah, because that's the other thing about orchestras, like they would run a section or a piece probably like at least 10-20 times, so you have lots of chances to fix things if anything is wrong.
Wow, to me, I think that you're quite a versatile musician. You've played with like the MPYO, and then now you're doing more of the jazz stuff. So it's classical music and jazz, they don't really correlate in a way. So how did you like transition from playing the classical stuff to the more the jazz stuff? Did it like have any weird like a whiplash effect, like, oh, now I have to like play with a little bit more rigid or with a metronome, or being the guy who has to be the one to keep time in a way?
Not really, no whiplash or anything. If anything, it complemented sort of. I would say that the classical training complemented my jazz playing a lot, because if you really dig deep into a lot of these books, like exercise books, especially like syncopation and all that, or the Will Coxon snare drum solos, a lot of them were like jazz drummers, right? A lot of educational books, and the drum set itself is birthed out of jazz music. So the history that you have in the drum set, before it became a drum set, it was the snare drum, it was the bass drum with one guy playing. Like that was the roots. So the classical music sort of is like before the jazz. So it kind of ties into it. And so when I was learning all the techniques and like my rudiments and stuff like that, I found that I could apply a lot of it into like I had more control, especially when playing my stuff on the drums when I was playing jazz. And then like I could feel more confident with things like feeling the beat and stuff like that. Because in orchestra, you really got to have a strong sense of pulse, right? Because you, like I said, sometimes the sound coming from the string section or something might be like split second delayed, and you can't really rely 100% on it. So you gotta be like really strong with your own sense of pulse. Then and when it comes to jazz, there is a saying where like the king of the ensemble is actually the bassist. So the one that keeps keeps time, but everybody should be keeping time. But the main one that you should refer to if you ever get lost or like somebody stumbles somewhere, you always listen back to the bass. That's why like usually in swing they'll be playing that quarter note pulse, the doom 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 doom. Like, that's the sort of like the metronome kind of thing. So in terms of timing, not much, but like in terms of technique and like getting the sounds you want, yeah, that really helped me, because like right cymbal sounds, with playing a right cymbal, the different way you hit it, you can get different sounds. And so knowing how to hit it, when to hit it, in what style, in what situation. Sometimes you're in a big room, you can afford more wash, but in a smaller room you don't want it to be so messy, then you tweak your technique a little bit just to get the right sound. Yeah, I found that like the classical training really helped a lot in achieving these kind of things.
Oh, that's very interesting, because I have never gone through any classical training in my life. At most, I did dabble a bit of piano at the very beginning, and then after that, just I don't want to do this anymore. Go drums.
I didn't want to do piano either.
Oh, you better not let your mom know that.
Yeah. I don't know whether she's gonna watch this video.
Who knows? We'll see how that goes lah. Speaking of like you're playing jazz, right? You started a band with your brother called Kangkung Belacan. So for those who don't know, Kangkung Belacan, the name itself is actually like a name of a type of dish. Yeah, like a Malaysian vegetable dish. So why is it called Kangkung Belacan?
Honestly, ever since like in the past in high school, when I would join battle of the bands or anything, like I found it very funny when people use like food names. So a lot of the bands I've been with, or like projects I've been a part of, we have like really like stupid. Like I had one called Wrinkly Donuts, I think. Once upon a time, I had a band called Wrinkly Donuts. Yeah, but anyway, so Kangkung Belacan was inspired because I think at that time, that year, it was when our ex-Prime Minister Najib declared like kangkung will be only 1 ringgit or something like that. So like everybody was talking about kangkung. I was like, okay. So then, I think the band started around that period. So then I was like, okay lah, Kangkung Belacan lah, So add some spice to it, add some belacan. Yeah, and then it just stuck. And we received a lot of like advice, in the beginning. It's like, you sure you want to call your band Kangkung Belacan? Like, you're gonna be known as it like for the rest of your life, or is this what you really want? Such a name for the rest of your life? Then I'm like, I guess so. No harm. Like, I mean, and like to foreigners, it's something like pretty cool, I guess, because it's like, it's not English, so they'll be like, oh, what language is this? But wait till they find out it's just like water spinach fried with belacan. Yeah, and then amongst locals, we all know what is it so like it's a tasty dish I enjoy. Like sometimes I order it when I go to like, I think mostly in like Malay restaurants they have this dish. So you just go to any Malay restaurant and then you order Kangkung Belacan. I think it's like one of the more common dishes you get. Yeah.
That is the thing. So every time when I order Kangkung Belacan in the restaurants, I would just think, oh right, the band. Instead of just a dish now.
Yeah, man.
But when we talk about your band, right? You guys have released an album. I think when was it? Like, was it last year?
Yeah, so, we released it on September 30th, my brother's birthday.
Yeah. So I actually had to listen to it, and all of it was very, very very jazz-oriented pieces. But the one that stuck out to me the most was the song, I think you already know, is the Jampatan Tamparuli. Yeah. So for those of you guys who don't know, Jampatan Tamparuli is actually an old Malaysian classic, or I should say a Sapahan classic, where the song is literally just talking about the bridge in Tamparuli and the nice things that is in that little small area of town, which is also located in Sabah. My question for you guys, like, what made you guys want to do a unique jazz rendition to this song?
Well, because we're Sabahan, and like,
yeah.
I mean, might as well play, something from where we are from. So then, if people ever ask about it, then we can talk about like where we came from, our culture and stuff like that. Yeah. So we made that arrangement was done by my brother for the most part, but originally also I think he intended for it just to be like in a trio setting, so just like drum, bass and piano. But then in the album we had the horn section, so then we added some extra arrangement for the horns, stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, that's why we chose that song. Like, there's another local Malaysian folk tune that I think maybe not very popular in Sabah, but Tepuk Amai Amai in West Malaysia is quite popular. So like, yeah, I also didn't really know much about Tepuk Amai before like coming to West Malaysia. And then it's quite interesting to see that like the childhood songs you grow up with, or the those nursery rhymes, quite different, even though we're like the same country. But in Sabah, like we sing certain songs, and here they sing certain songs, and then it doesn't always, it's not always the same.
Yeah, that is true. Who knows? I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys are gonna do with Sayang Kinabalu, if you guys ever plan to do that.
Actually, we did the first gig as Kangkung Belacan, like the debut of Kangkung Belacan back in 2018, I believe. It was at the Malaysian Jazz Piano Festival, and then we did that tune. Alton actually did an arrangement, and that time he played with the band for WVC back then. So with AJ on bass and KJ on drums and Julian Chan on saxophone. Yeah, so my brother has an arrangement for that song. But I think we decided not to include it in the album. I think maybe it was because of like copyright issues or something. Like, yeah, because this album, like Time and Tune, is a self-produced album, so like I had to do a bit of research. Not a bit actually, I did a lot of research on like getting things copyrighted and stuff, and it's not easy, especially there's so many bodies. You got the MACP, the RPM, the PPM, and all that thing going on. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, no joke.
Oh wow. Okay. So would you encourage other people to also, produce albums to put it on Spotify or to sell, given your inspiration?
Yeah, you should. But just be careful if you're covering something, because you don't want to get in trouble down the road. But if it's originals, yeah, by all means. But also, yeah, do make the extra effort of getting your stuff copyrighted. It is a lot to read up on, and but everything is still available online, and you can always call them and ask. But yeah, there is like quite a number of things you gotta do lah. And then like and that's just copywriting. Distribution is like another thing like altogether again. Like, yeah. So. But yeah, I still think like, yeah, just produce. If I can do it, so can you.
Alright, sounds fair enough. But I wouldn't share what I'm gonna do though, because I mostly just do anime drum covers on my YouTube channel, unless I want to just get copyrighted for being a weeb.
Yeah, that one I don't know. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, there's also some interesting facts that I do know that I think most people don't know. Is that so? You used to start off as doing the classical stuff, then you also transitioned to playing jazz. You also done some stuff in church, so you know how to play some of the pop stuff. But I also know that sometime in the past few years ago that we were talking, I was actually asking you about some difficult transcription stuff like Animals as Leaders. You know that band, right? There was this one song called Cascade, so I was like trying to figure out a drum bass pattern. Then I asked you like, hey, what do you think of this one? Do you know, is this 16 notes or something? And then you surprised me by saying, oh, I transcribed it. You want to see? I'm like, what? Excuse me? You? Because in my head, I was just thinking, you're a jazz drummer, so you wouldn't be interested in doing all this stuff. Then you go ahead and surprise me by showing that you transcribed this insanely difficult song. So I want to know now is like, are you also into heavy metal and gent stuff as well?
Yeah, definitely. Most of my teenage years was actually listening to a lot of like heavy metal stuff. Like August Burns Red was like one of my favorite bands. So Matt Garska, that was like a big influence when I was in high school. So yeah, I would listen to a lot of that kind of stuff. And then like the Punk Goes Pop album, all the volumes. I think there are like 6 or 7 volumes, like all of them. But at that time, no, a bit of. I don't know whether you want to keep this in your YouTube lah, but LimeWire lah was best friend lah.
Oh man, yeah, LimeWire. Those were the days.
Those were the days, yeah. So like with LimeWire, so like I never. I mean now of course with some money while working, I can afford to buy better headphones and better speakers. But I never realized that I was listening to really bad quality audio. In the past, it was like really bad. Now I dig up some of like my old pen drives and I open the files like, wow, I was listening to this sort of audio quality. But yeah, like Animals as Leaders. Yeah, it was introduced by a friend of mine in high school. I was like, well, this is really complicated. And I think the first track from Animals of Leaders was the what's the name?
Oh man, sounds very familiar. Okay, I'm gonna go find it.
Can't even sing it lah.
That's okay. I will find it and put it in the description in the video.
Yeah. I'll let you know. Yeah. So like that one really like, whoa, what the hell? Then then obviously I think they changed. That was like the original drummer. Then they changed one more. Then Matt Garska came in. Yeah. Then Matt Garska was like, he was like the guy that made like gospel chops into metal. So I don't know. To me, he was like the first time I see like, whoa, gospel chops in metal. Like what the? Because the normal fill-ins you get from like Joey Jordison and Slipknot and all that, they're not in that sort of like gospel chop flavor. But like with Matt Garska like added that flavor, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Yeah. So I mean that was I listened to a lot lah. And then that's why also in university when I was like checking out jazz stuff, I was actually more skewed towards like the modern heavier stuff like Tigran Hamashan and and his and even Avishai Cohen. Avishai Cohen wasn't so like heavy, but it's just a lot of percussion, a lot of odd time signatures, very percussive and stuff like that. So I was drawn more into that before like the swing stuff.
Okay. Well, seems like you're very well versed, in knowledge of music, from the classical stuff to jazz, even to like rock, metal, or even to the pop ghost metal stuff. How do you actually become, so proficient with so many different styles of genres?
I guess it's to do with a lot of listening, because when it comes to music, the whole point of music is to listen to it, right? So like just a lot of listening. So I think like by listening to a lot of like August Burns Red and Animals as Leaders and listening one thing, but then also transcribing, trying to understand whatever's going on, trying to figure out like what the drummers are thinking or what they're doing. Yeah, so like from there, like they say, like put yourself in their shoes kind of thing. Yeah. So I wouldn't say like I'm very proficient actually, because like the more you study it, then you're like, whoa, there's a lot more things to do. Like, so it's kind of like to me lah, it's kind of like surface. I barely crack the surface. Like even with classical stuff, like I'm probably only good at the classical music that I have studied and performed. But if you ask me to learn a new symphony or a new like I would definitely have to like start from scratch again, that kind of and then go through that whole process of learning each bar and like understanding like, okay, how am I supposed to play this and phrase it correctly, stuff like that. Like of course it gets easier over time, because you can reapply what you've learned, but it's still another big hill to tackle and very deep. Like even with metal music, like I was like, I listened to a lot of August Burns Red, Animals as Leaders, at that time lah, and then Avenged Sevenfold and all that. But then there was stuff like Dream Theater that I couldn't really get into, you know. So like I knew of them, I heard some of the songs, but I never really got into it. Or like bands like Megadeth and all that. Like I just never really went there. But I know there's so many more like great bands, you know, that have great music, but I didn't go and study those. So like yeah, I can sort of, I know of metal music, I know these few bands, but I don't know like the whole everything, you know. I'm not like a connoisseur of metal music or something like that.
Alright, well, the fact that you already know the band Animals as Lizard already speaks volumes for a majority of jazz musicians who don't really listen to metal or even gent. So the fact that you actually even transcribe one already speaks volumes. Since you kind of already know how to play so many genres, do you have any like fears, or what are some of the different types of gigs that you would be more afraid of doing? Like for example, for me, right? I mean, I love playing pop. I like to play top 40s. That's fine. I have no problem. You ask me to play heavy metal, yeah, go ahead. You want me to go play some anime songs? Yeah, sure. I love doing that. But if you ask me to just play in a small little gig, in a place with just 20-30 people and just play jazz, I will just start to panic. I'll just give you like the basic swing and that's it. You ask me to do jazz comping rhythms, I will just die on the spot. What about for you? Do you have any like different styles of genres which you are just like maybe you want to call someone else? Do you have that type of fear?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't say fear. I think like how I would approach it is like, do I have enough time to actually learn? Like I try not to say no at first. Like whenever I get an opportunity to do something, I actually consider, even though I know like I'm really bad at it, just like classical music, right? If someone now tells me like, are you free in March to play timpani for the orchestra? I wouldn't like outright say no yet. I would think like, hey, between now and March, do I have time to like get my timpani chops together, and if I think it's possible, I actually would like just go and whack it. Like, yeah, of course I'll be like very nervous because like no experience, right? But I mean, you have to start somewhere. Like that's how I would think lah. Like like maybe this timpani gig I'll be very stressed out, but I do a few more and then not so scared anymore. Like that's probably, yeah, so definitely get very anxious if it's like something that I'm not familiar with. So the stuff that like even pop, sometimes I still can get, like especially if it's like big stage pop. Like I did one last year which was like a big production. Is this singer from it's not that famous, but he knows a lot of like well-known people for some reason, and he like directs his own film apparently. I'm not sure because it's Chinese seed and I banana, so I don't know like but his name is Lenny Oei. He has some originals on YouTube. So he did this big concert last year, I think it was in July, around that period. Then like it was like one of my first big stage pop. Like we had dancers, like not just dancers, like the girl with the acrobat with the I don't know what you call it, the one where they have like a curtain or something, and then the cloth.
Oh yeah, I've seen that before. Yeah,
that kind of thing. Yeah, it was like whoa, okay. And then they had like taiko drums, like 10 taiko drum, like drumming together and stuff like that. Like a really big production. And I never heard of this guy before. But anyways, I just got the call like out of the blue. Then like because it was together with the pop orchestra, so the conductor for the pop orchestra is called Eugene Polk. So but the call, he wanted to work with WEC, the other band that I'm in, but Zhe Xiang, the pianist, he was not free. But myself and the bassist AJ were free, so we were like, okay we just say yes lah, try it lah. So yeah, then I received all these like MIDI files, learning all the parts, learning the songs and stuff like that. It's really nerve-wracking lah, because it's like you can't afford to skip a beat, so to say, because there's like programmed material, like you're playing to programmed material already. So if you skip a beat, then the whole program's gone, that kind of thing. Yeah, but overall a fun experience. Then so maybe the next one I do, I won't be that scared. But yeah, they're obviously like the ones that I'm more comfortable with are the ones that I've been doing a lot regularly lah. So like bar gigs and all that. But perhaps, if you put me in a bar in New York City, then I'll be super nervous because it's like a different scene altogether. Like the crowd will be different, maybe, like it's just a different place. You're not like comfortable with, yeah. So, maybe so like, I might be used to bar gigs here in Malaysia, but do it maybe even just in like Thailand, and I'll be like, whoa. A bit scary because like there's so many good players in Thailand or in Indonesia or wherever, you might be like, whoa. I would say like, try it lah, even though you're scared.
Okay, yeah, that's some good advice. Just you have to try it and see how it goes. Since you've performed like so many different styles or different various gigs from both big and small and even intimate gigs, do you have any like funny stories or funny incidents that has happened when you're performing in one of these gigs?
Well, there's always been, from time to time, like some funny things tend to happen, like drumsticks falling. That's pretty common. I think every drummer goes through that. But like music stand falling down, or even like your music note flying away, cymbal falling down, or sometimes like the bassist, like AJ, will accidentally knock into my drums and stuff like that. Yeah, it's really, really stupid. Like sometimes on purpose. Sometimes like if the song very, very hype, right? Then out of nowhere he will pull a drumstick or like use his bare hands, hit the crash for me, and I'm like, what? I'll be like playing a groove and then suddenly I hear a crash. I did not hit that. Then it's just like, yeah, but there's a lot of like funny things happen on stage and also before, like, or after, like backstage or during the journey and stuff like that. Like just the past year alone, there's a lot of like crazy stuff. Like there was one gig that we did on Pangkor Island. We had to drive about 3 hours from KL to what's the town? It's a small town then you can take a 10-minute ferry to the island, right? So on the way back, it was like super duper jam, something like that. Then we were like, oh no, because like usually it takes like 3 hours, but then the waste was like 8 hours. It was like alamak. So then we just stopped by we went through the back road and through stopped by some random restaurant. Like it's literally a house on the side of the road, nothing else, just one house. But it's a restaurant, and then you just order food there and eat. And then So Ngam, one of their specialties was Kangkung Belacan.
Hey.
So yeah, we had the Kangkung Belacan, and it was like, oh, damn good. But then you'll never ever have a chance to taste it again because we don't know where the hell we were. It was just like traffic jam, go off road a bit, and then discover one house, and then just eat there. Yeah. So yeah, like being a musician got a lot of like very weird things. Sometimes funny, sometimes, but in the back of my mind, don't know. Maybe got funnier things, but I cannot recall.
Yeah, I think that's something we can even talk, when we meet again, in person. I think it was like 2-3 months ago, I think back in December, right? I think, yeah, back in December 2022, I met you again in like Sabah, right, in KK. You were actually an adjudicator for the Music Fest KK. How was it like, being an adjudicator, like a judge? I have never been a judge before. I just see it and I go, oh, okay, he's good. All right, this guy not so good. Why am I supposed to write here? So, yeah, what was it like for you? What was that experience?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I was like, okay, this guy's good. This guy's not. I mean, but how KK Music Festival works, right? It is a competition, right? But the way I see it, it wasn't like a really prestigious kind of thing. Because like the fact that below grade two and below, everybody gets a medal. It's a fun thing. It's not like you have to be the best of the best of the best. Like you just have to perform well in your category, and obviously you get something lah. So especially for the younger ones, so it's more like giving exposure, encouragement sort of thing. So whenever I think of things to write, I try to think like, oh, how can I further encourage this drum student or this drummer. So yeah, being a judge is never easy lah, because first you gotta ask yourself like, what's your standard like, right? Like how are you gonna benchmark everyone? If you have like 100 people to listen to, how are you gonna benchmark them? And it's all subjective, right? When it comes to these things, when it comes to art, one man's trash is another man's treasure, that kind of thing. But I guess there are a few things that I know most drummers or all drummers would agree to, and the few things would be like good timing, playing good time. I think everybody will agree like that's a good attribute. If you want to be a good drummer, you have to play good time. Then another thing probably is a good sound, right? You get a good sound from the way you play your drums, and then maybe also good technique. Of course, there are thousands, not thousands, but many various ways you can hold a stick, hit with the stick, but obviously you want to pick one that does not cause injury or will cause injury, So like if I notice a drummer doing something that could potentially harm themselves in the long run, then obviously I'll say like, okay, try to avoid doing that, The way I judge for that would be more like giving tips and advice, and just commenting on overall things they can do to be a better drummer. Yeah, so that's the way I see judging. But the points thing, I 85 versus 84 out of 100. I also don't know how to differentiate what would justify that one extra mark. I also don't know. It's all just ballpark marks. Around there, you're around like a 80 to 85. That's what you are. It's so broad.
Yeah, because I've sent in also like quite a number of my students to also go for the KK Music Fest, and some of them, they were like wondering how do they mark 84 and then how do they mark you as 90? Like what's the difference between these 5 marks? Some parents ask me, and I'm just like, very good question. Yeah, I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, if you ask me and you ask a different adjudicator, we'll probably give very different answers on the difference. But I think it will be like based on the group also, right? Like in that particular group, if you were a grade 1C and you had like 10 people in that group, so I think based out of the 10 people in that group, were you at 99, 98, 97, you kind of like around there. But this year I think they tried to go with a system where like it was very weird though, where they said like if you were bronze, it's between like 80 to 84, so it's like only like a 4 mark gap, and then silver is like 85 to 89, and then gold is 90. Then I was like, why is it so small? Why is the gap like, shouldn't it be like 75 to 80 or 75 to 85 something, or like 70 to 80, then 80 to 90, then 90 to 100? So it's like bigger, it's like easier, right? And it makes more sense also, but I don't know, it's very weird. Like, so at first I tried to stick to that, but then like on the later stages of the day I was like, this doesn't really make a lot of sense. So then I'm like, I just give my own marks, so I don't care. Yeah, because it's like you, especially when you go to higher grade, you're like, this guy definitely get gold, that guy also is a silver lah, right? But if the gold one gets like 99 and the second place one, he probably only make a few mistakes also. He could have gotten like a 95, but because it's a silver, you have to put it like as 80, 89 max. I was like, that doesn't really reflect, because if by right, you also, one would get 99, one would get 95, but because the 95 is a silver and the silver is only between 85 to 89, I could only put 89 as like the highest possible for silver, even though like I thought he deserved a 95 out of 100. So that kind of thing, I don't know. Probably have to like discuss it with the whoever came up with the system, like to tweak it a bit. But that's why, like I also told you, right? Like don't really look at the mark so much. I think what matters most is like the comment, because the marks is just marks. Like, I might give an 84, the other guy might give an 83, another guy might give an 87. Like, it's all ballpark kind of thing. Yeah, it's all subjective.
Yeah, then okay, that's a good way, and I'll just have to tell to all those my students, but your parents, don't bother about the marks. What matters is actually the comments.
The comments, yeah.
You've been doing a lot of drumming, you're gigging constantly, you've even been a judge, and you are also a drum teacher. Doing all of this stuff can definitely take a toll on anybody, especially with their both mental and physical health. So how do you keep yourself, healthy and to continue to be motivated to do this?
Keep myself healthy, I'm not sure lah. I haven't been eating that healthy. But I do try to occasionally, if I have free time, work out a bit lah. Just do some push-ups, do some push-ups. in between. Like I wouldn't necessarily say like, okay, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. 1 hour I'm gonna work out. Not necessarily like that. But like, let's say like I'm boiling rice and I'm waiting for the rice to cook and like nothing else to do. Okay, let's do some squats. Like I'll like slot in like or like waiting for my egg to fry on the pan. Nothing to do. Okay, do some push-ups. Yeah, like or waiting for the laundry to dry. Okay, go out for a walk. Yeah, so something like that lah. Like just mini things. I guess it's like sort of how I approach my practice as well. Sometimes it's very hard to schedule like every day from 9 to 12 I want to practice, because sometimes between 9 to 12 you might have like a appointment to go to the bank or rehearsals or meet up with friends or something like that. Like, so it's quite hard to keep it consistent. So like I'll try to like slot it in between. Like after this interview, I have nothing to do, then maybe I'll practice. Then like before dinner, before I have to like cook dinner or anything, right? Then stuff like that. Yeah, I guess having a good social circle, I think that's very important as well. Having good friends, having like friends you can hang out with or talk to whenever you're stressed, and or play games with, just to blow off some steam, like play sports with. But in KL, not really. But last time, like whenever I'm in KK or anything, I'll regularly meet up with my friends, go yam cha, go eat a meal, watch a movie, play badminton or whatever. Yeah. Like stuff like that lah, do non-work related stuff.
So mostly like doing other hobbies and interests outside of drumming, and that helps. Okay, then do you actually still have time to do all those though? Like even if you do have time, like what exactly are some of your hobbies and interests?
Well, so in KL it's actually it's not as easy as in KK, to plan something and have people show up, because everybody's got their own life, and even though we're all distance-wise very near, but because of traffic, it can be very far. So like even if I plan a movie, let's say this weekend I want to go watch a movie, and I send a blast to all my friends that are in KL, I'm pretty sure like half of them will definitely not be free. They will have some other plans of their own, or like they might be too lazy, because like finally it's the weekend. It's like for them it's like the rest day, but for musicians it's like our work day, right? Our working days. But for them it'll be like their day of rest, just want to chill at home. They rather not go out. So I perfectly understand that as well. So yeah, with friends, with like hanging out in KL, it can be quite tough, or you have to really plan like weeks ahead. It's not like today I'm quite free, okay lah, call today tonight, go out. Like very rare that will happen. Yeah. So when it comes to like planning activities, in KL it's not as easy lah, from what I find lah. But so then a lot of the times especially during MCO, right? Everybody's stuck at home, cannot go out. So then I'll play games basically, or watch series together. Sometimes we like stream movies on Discord, and then I'll like tune into my friend's channel and maybe watch something together. Yeah. Or I'll play some games, stuff like that. Yeah. So thank goodness for technology and the internet allowing me and my friends to connect, even though some are far apart. I have there's one of my best friends, he's now in like New Zealand working there. So like there's a 5-hour difference, but occasionally, we still got some time to play games together. Yeah.
Okay, so mostly I would say like hanging out friends would be through online gaming, right?
I think majority of the thing we do now is online now. Yeah.
All right. What games have you been playing recently?
Recently because my friend he told me like, oh, you should check out the Yakuza series, and then like Yakuza 0 is like one of the better ones. So I saw it on sale the other day on Christmas. Steam had a sale, so I downloaded it, and I've been playing it quite a bit lah. Like it's an interesting story lah, but very, very a lot of stupid things going on during the gameplay. Yeah. But during MCO lah, I was playing a lot of on the Switch, because my friend also has a Switch, so we were playing a lot like Monster Hunter. So like he got me into like the Monster Hunter series. So we started with World, and then on the Switch there was Generations Ultimate. We played a lot of that, And then when Monster Hunter Rise came out, yeah, we played a lot of that as well. Yeah, so a lot of monster hunting.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. That sounds like a fun time. I mean, I did not get into the Monster Hunter series. I think, back then, like maybe during MCO, most of the time I was just, let me just go through all of my old back catalog of PlayStation games and just like try to, get all of my achievement hunting trophies and just get it done. Well, besides gaming, right? Like, what else have you been doing? Like, outside of drumming, like you said, you watch Netflix, right? So you still watching a lot of new series right now?
Oh yeah, there's so many things to consume. Even like on YouTube, like I just recently discovered this I guess it was a series back then. It's called Nathan for You, and it's about this weird guy, like he acts as like a marketing agent trying to improve people's businesses, but using exploits, like borderline illegal things. So like, I found it really dumb and funny and entertaining. So I watched a lot of these like short excerpts on YouTube. Yeah, but then it got, and now I'm actually very heavily considering getting an account on Comedy Central so I can watch all this kind of like funny stuff. Yeah. So yeah, there's stuff like that. Yeah, and I'm actually trying to get back into playing like futsal. So I've been like talking to some friends in KL, and then like hopefully I can, because I used to play quite a bit of football back in high school with my friends. But ever since I went for further studies, like no kaki ma, like football you need like 22 people. So it's very hard to get 22 people, but at least futsal, slightly smaller, something like that. Then it's quite a happening sport also in KL, so yeah, hopefully you can get back into that kind of thing, do some sport.
Yeah, definitely. Health is an important part of being a part of a musician. Actually, part of anyone's lives. Our health should be like one of our number one priorities in our life, so that we can live longer to produce more music, right? Well, so speaking of futsal, then, are you also like a football fan as well?
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I enjoyed playing the game, but like never really found joy in watching people kick the ball. I don't know. My father is a big football fan. He will always watch like the Premier League or whatever at home. Sometimes I will sit down and join him, but like 90 minutes too long lah. I will sit like 20 minutes maybe, watch a bit, and like it's very boring. It's only exciting when like they're like attacking and trying to score a goal, or like the keepers, very dramatic lah, right? Save the ball, But a lot of the time it's like passing back and forth, passing back. It's like this is not that entertaining. Honestly lah, my honest opinion lah, yeah.
But it's alright, I do welcome hot takes, in this channel. Yes, but it's fine. I do agree with you in some points because I'm not really much of a sports fan myself. I mean, I actually slept through the night, like during the World Cup finals. I was like, who was it that won again? Oh, okay, Argentina. Cool. Yeah, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
So I do have like a question, regarding to music as well. Do you have any like guilty pleasures in music? The song is like sometimes it's just overrated, or it's just, or everybody knows this is just whatever, some dumb music, but secretly I kind of like this, that type of thing.
Yeah, man. Plenty. Yeah, I mean, music is music, right? So like I said, one man's trash could be another man's trash. But like, I don't know, for some people they get really annoyed with the never gonna give you up, never gonna the Rick Roll. The Rick Roll. But I kind of like it. It's a catchy song. I mean, it's a good song. I mean, I think that's partly why it got so famous also, because it's actually like a nice. Then yeah, it's like the whole vibe to it. I enjoy listening to it, even though it can Rick roll sometimes. Yeah, and then I think like dubstep, probably a lot of people don't like it. Like they would think like Skrillex, or it's just like Blender kind of thing. But I mean, I find it very percussive and very interesting for the ears, especially when I try to like, transcribe. Not really transcribe, but try to like hit the. That kind of thing. It's using triplets, all 16 notes, try to like dissect it. Yeah, so I find dubstep really interesting in that sense, because it's not necessarily melody also. It's like pitches, right? And that's like I find it very similar to the drum set, where you have a lot of high and low pitches, not necessarily tuned to a specific pitch, but just like, variations of pitches. So yeah, dubstep, not a genre that a lot of people like.
Yeah, actually, I do like dubstep though. I mean, yeah, I also think of it in that sense, like you hear all those like weird sound going on, and yeah, very very percussive. Like I think from the drummer's point of view, I can actually complement this with a lot of stuff. So I think you probably like watch like Luke Holland's interpretation of Skrillex songs. Have you
Oh
seen
yeah,
those videos?
yeah. Last time, yeah, Luke Holland, and then the other guy, Hobbies.
Cobus.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Kofi,
heard of
he
that
did
one.
some drum covers, not necessarily dubstep, but I think that Luke Holland did a lot like the dubstep kind of stuff. Yeah, that was really interesting to watch.
Yeah, those were the ones that actually got me interested into dubstep. Oh, I didn't know you could do that with the drums to complement this type of music. I'm like, okay, I see you. Then I also tried to emulate it, but I would fail miserably with it.
Yeah. Same. I'll be like, I'm hitting everything in time, but why does it sound so horrible? Yeah.
Myself as a huge anime fan, I do so many drum covers of anime stuff, so I can also have to ask, like, do you watch any anime?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I didn't really get into anime very early on. Like, I mean, because I know this because like in high school especially, a lot of my friends, they were talking about like Dragon Ball and stuff like that, or Naruto. So even until now, actually, I haven't really watched Dragon Ball or Naruto like being like super big. But I remember back in university, I had like quite a lot of free time, and sometimes you don't have anything to do, so that I would like binge One Piece a lot. But I gave up like episode 600 it was like bloody 600 episodes in, and I was like, don't really want to go. Now I heard it's like up to like 1,000 plus already. I'm like, I don't think I have the energy to like continue another 400 episodes. But yeah, it was fun. Like that was fun. One of the first animes that I got exposed to was Law of Iwaki. I think it was on Animax last time. So like, I thought that anime was like really interesting because like such a stupid superpower, right? Turn trash into trees. So like, who comes up with these kind of things, man? Little did I know like anime is full of that kind of like absurd logic. Yeah, so then like yeah, but back then it was just like watch, like not super into it. But then lately, like and I think also like very interesting like ideas, especially in anime. So then I watched stuff like Code Geass, and then like the Demon Hunter. Yeah, then I also started going into reading mangas because like lazy to wait for the next episode, right? They release one like every week, and it's like I want to know what happens next. So then I start reading manga also like, because actually I found like, oh, it's very nice to like kill time also, because sometimes before the game you're like waiting, what? You're like in a holding room waiting for your turn to play, like a wedding dinner, say. You have to go early to sound check, and then like wait maybe 3-4 hours until you actually play your first song. So that 3-4 hours, you eat your dinner, you talk to your friends, and then sometimes talk, and then nothing to talk already. They just like play their phone or go out to smoke or whatever. They're just sitting there, okay lah, read manga. Yeah, so like the recent ones would be like Chainsaw Man and Blue Lock. Yeah, I think Blue Lock also partially why I want to like play futsal again.
Oh really? But
yeah.
Blue Locks, that's kind of brutal. You really want to like destroy your friends while playing football.
I want to play with my monster. But I mean, like, it was so interesting to see like a anime based on football. Like, I know there's like Haikyuu. I watched Haikyuu, the volleyball one, that was like pretty hype. Yeah, then the basketball one, was that the Phantom Shot guy, Kuroki?
Yeah, Kuroko basketball, right?
Yeah, then I watched that also last time. Like, so I thought like, wow, the sports anime like quite short, because like very motivating, and like how they work so hard to get good. Then I was like, oh, okay. Then they have a football one. It's like, but it's like opposite, right? It's like,
absolutely.
Instead of teamwork, it's like, give me the ball, and it's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, very interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't go like with the power of friendship, but this is like no man, screw you guys. I'm gonna take the ball and I'm gonna win. I don't care.
Yeah, man. Like, whoa, this is like a totally different approach. Like, I like it. Yeah. good fresh idea.
Well, it's good to know that you're also into anime. Then we can talk about that kind of stuff. But I don't want to drag it on. Otherwise, this might be 2 hours and then half an hour. Yeah, we're just talking about anime.
Talking about anime. Yeah.
Maybe we'll just come back to the drumming stuff, right? So, do you have any advice you would like to give to anybody who wants to get into the music industry, like for drummers, or maybe besides drummers, like other musicians?
Okay. I think especially if you're Malaysian, I think having good sense of taking initiative. I think that is one of the most important things any Malaysian musician, especially if you're just starting out, you gotta have it lah. Because we don't necessarily have a very easy path to follow, right? Nothing's really spelled out for you, especially when you come into this industry. You could be a teacher, you can work in a school, okay, but let's say I want to produce an album, okay, how how do I go about it? Okay, I have to record, okay, then what? Then you have to mix and master, okay, then when it comes to publication, how do I publish this? How do I get my song now with this WAV file or MP3 or whatever? How do I get this onto Spotify? Then you have to have initiative. You gotta go go do some research, go on YouTube, because it's not necessarily one number you can just call and ask, hey, I got this problem, can you help me? Of course, you have senior musicians that you can always ask for advice, but that's one thing, right? But also, once you have your own music, right, you also you have to just be very active, proactive in applying, can I play for this festival, right, to venues. Even if a particular venue doesn't have music there, you can always just approach it, hey, would you like to have music? We can work together and do something. You have to have that sort of initiative to want to start something, because sometimes they also don't know, and you never know also, maybe they might be interested to do it, but nobody ever approached them, the other party. So if you have an idea, you want to do something, do an event, and you think it has good potential if I do it at this venue, then you can approach the people who do events at that venue or the management and say, hey, what if I do this in your mall or your coffee shop? Do you think it's a good idea, or how can we work this out? And a lot of times it's actually like that. You'll be okay, yeah, let's do it. Okay, then then you talk details, so should we sell tickets, or how should we go about this? Then you just have to keep finding out things on your own. A lot of the times, you have to just be very thick-skinned, ask potentially dumb questions, but then once you learn lah, right? So you ask all the dumb questions at first, but then you find out okay, if I want to apply this, I need to write a letter, or I need to get permission from DBKK or DBKL, all this black and white kind of stuff. So just have a proactive attitude, want to have a lot of initiative to do things. I think that's very important, because if not, the easiest thing you can do as a musician, if you want to work as a musician, I think it's just to teach, right? That is the easiest thing. But if you want more, then you gotta work more. That's it.
Yeah, totally get what you mean, man. Yeah, you really have to take initiative in a cutthroat world of the music industry, and you just have to just go for it, right? So we have to not be afraid to fail, even if it doesn't. Okay, you just learn and do better next time, right? Yeah. So those are some very good sound advice. Alright, thank you so much, man. So do you have any upcoming projects that we can look forward to seeing?
There is a Pangkor Island Jazz Festival happening in September. I think it's September 28th to 30th. So the end of September. So I might be playing for that one. Because if I'm still in Malaysia, because I actually applied to do my masters. So if I get approval for the scholarship and all, then I'll probably not be in Malaysia then. But yeah. But
okay.
Besides that, I mean I don't know. Just check out my Instagram, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Then you can see posters. I'll occasionally, if I have public shows, from time to time I'll host jam sessions. Actually, at the end of every month, on the last Monday of every month, I do host a jam session in Petaling Jaya at Sri Petaling called TT Fusion. So I will usually post that on social media when it happens. Sure, I do have a website, but I don't really update it very often. But yeah, there's a web, like all my social media, everything is like Adriel XL, right? So if it's Instagram, it's /AdrielXL. If my website is adrielxl.com, and then I think my YouTube is also AdrielXL, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't really post a lot of stuff on YouTube. Mostly is Instagram lah. Most of the stuff, yeah. Kangkung Belacan also has its own profile. I think it's Kangkung Belacan, like it's Kangkung Belacan. Yeah, that one's like the Instagram one. I think we do have a YouTube account, but we also don't really upload. Well, partly because now my brother's studying in the States, so we haven't been like, you know, producing any new content or anything like that. So if I join him studying in the States, then maybe, you know, we might do something there. Or when he comes back for holidays, then maybe we'll go on tour in Sabah or somewhere, you know, like, because ever since the album got released, we didn't do a tour, we didn't like promote it. So yeah, I might arrange something in like the May-June period where my brother and I will like, and my band, the Kangkung Belacan, yeah, we will probably go around Malaysia to play our music finally live, not just on Spotify. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Adriel, for doing this with me. So hope you had like a fun time for this interview.
I did. Yeah, it's great talking to you, man.
Alright, that's it everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this video of another episode of Drummers Talk. I want to give a big shout out to all of my Patreon members as well as the Kofi members. If you guys would like to see more and support this channel, go ahead and like, subscribe, and you can support me over there. I'll also leave all of the links to all of Adriel's websites and links to all of his social medias and upcoming performances as well. So that's it from me, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one.